They forgot our anniversary. Even my wife, the woman I spent 25 years with, didn't say a thing. No card, no hug, not even a look. I grilled steaks for everyone, poured the wine, cleaned up alone, while she scrolled her phone like I wasn't there. That night, I left my wedding ring on her pillow and took the midnight train out of town. A month later, she texted, "The house feels empty without you. I didn't even see you slipping away." On my 25th wedding anniversary, my family gave me nothing. The silence wasn't just loud, it was the sound of my life shattering, and no one even noticed I was gone. That night, I walked out with just the clothes on my back and a wallet. The city lights blurred through the train window as I left behind 2 decades, a family, and a life I no longer recognized. They say the quietest betrayals echo the loudest, and I never understood that until that moment. I'm David, 51. Husband, father, provider. The man who quietly kept the engine running, fixed what was broken, showed up for everything, and cleared the snow before anyone else woke up. The kind of man you don't notice until he's gone, and maybe not even then. For 25 years, I was married to Sarah. We met at a mutual friend's New Year's Eve party. She had a crooked smile, a dorky laugh, and a fire in her eyes that convinced me she was the one. We built a life in a modest home in Northern California, raised Chloe and Noah, and weathered every storm, layoffs, the recession, her dad's cancer, a miscarriage, my back injury from construction. It wasn't glamorous, but I thought we were solid. I thought we were us. This story didn't start with a bang. No cheating, no screaming matches. It started like most endings do, slow, almost invisible, like water wearing down rock. You don't notice the erosion until you're at the edge of a cliff. The first crack wasn't the anniversary itself. It was months before, at Chloe's 22nd birthday dinner. She was home from college, radiating that early 20s glow. I grilled steaks despite the cold. Noah was holed up in his room until Sarah yelled at him. Sarah herself had been distant all week, constantly scrolling and smiling at messages I wasn't privy to. At dinner, Sarah clinked her glass. She spoke glowingly about Chloe, then turned to me. And thank God for David, who cooked the only decent steak in this house. It was a joke. Everyone laughed, even me. But it wasn't a thank you. It was a backhanded appreciation. And it stuck with me. Later, doing dishes, I overheard Sarah on FaceTime with her sister. "He's just boring lately. Gets excited about mulch." "Who gets excited about mulch?" She laughed. Her sister laughed. I gripped the plate until my knuckles whitened. That was the first time I realized I'd become background noise in my own life. But I didn't confront her. I swallowed it, like men of my generation were taught to do. You push through. You don't whine. You just do the job. Be the rock. Accept rocks crack. In the weeks before our 25th, I waited for Sarah to say something. Drop a hint. Ask about plans. Nothing. She was too busy planning a trip to Las Vegas with her friends. "Motherhood is exhausting," she said. I nodded, though our youngest was 17 and barely spoke to us. I made excuses for her, stressed, midlife stuff. I even joked, maybe she's planning a surprise. But I knew better. The last surprise was a Bluetooth meat thermometer still in the box under the sink. March 12th arrived. No card, no hug, no happy anniversary. Not from her, not from the kids. Not even a lousy text. I made steak again, the way Sarah liked it. Noah ate in silence, AirPods in. Chloe was texting. Sarah sat across from me, phone in one hand, fork in the other, her screen reflecting off her glasses. When dinner ended, they scattered. No one offered to help. No one said thank you. I cleaned up, listening to the faucet drip. Upstairs, I stood in our bedroom doorway, staring at the spot where she used to leave little love notes. Nothing. She was in bed already, scrolling, didn't look up. Didn't say goodnight. That was when something in me shifted. I didn't plan it. I didn't pack a bag. I just walked to my nightstand, took off my wedding ring, and placed it on her pillow. Still, she didn't look up. I walked out with the clothes on my back and my wallet. I took the midnight train from Columbus to Denver. I had an old friend, Tony, there from my construction days, who owed me a favor. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I didn't answer texts, not that many came. The first week away felt surreal, like haunting someone else's life. I walked for hours, replaying the last 5 years. The dinners alone, the forgotten birthdays, the way she started calling me dad instead of babe. For the first time in years, I let myself ask, was this all my fault? Did I let myself become invisible? Or did they just stop seeing me the moment I stopped being useful? A month later, the first real message came. Not from my kids, but from her. The house feels empty without you. I didn't even notice you were disappearing. I read it 5 times, then put the phone down. The truth is, I had been disappearing, but it didn't start that night. It started the moment I stopped being seen as a man and started being treated like a service. And maybe the biggest mistake I ever made was letting it happen without a fight. What Sarah didn't know was I had no intention of staying gone forever. I just needed time to plan my return on my terms. And when I came back, it wouldn't be with roses or an apology. It would be with a reckoning. That message haunted me for days. I didn't reply, not because I had nothing to say, but because I had too much. Nothing felt right. Nothing felt enough. What do you say to someone who watched you vanish right in front of them and didn't flinch? Instead, I scrolled through old photos. Our 20th anniversary, on a bench near Lake Tahoe. She was leaning into me, laughing at something dumb I'd said. My arm around her. It was the last time I remembered her truly looking at me like I mattered. How do we get from that to this? Denver gave me space, but not enough to forget. I was staying at Tony's. He had a tiny guest room, but I made it work. Tony didn't ask many questions. He just handed me a beer and said, whatever it is, she'll either figure it out or she won't. Just don't go back until you're sure you still want to. That stuck with me. For the first time, I was asking myself the question I'd avoided for years. Do I still want this? Sarah's message wasn't followed by a call. Not even a second text. Just silence. Like she was waiting for me to come crawling back, like it was my job to fix things. But I didn't. Instead, I started observing. I logged into our shared bank account. A few Amazon charges, new patio furniture, a spa reservation, a fancy dinner. Nothing huge, but little things that told me life back home hadn't hit pause. Sarah was still living, just without me. Then I checked social media. Chloe posted a photo from some brunch place. Bottomless mimosas, cinnamon roll pancakes. Noah commented, steak pancakes. She replied, at least mine aren't overcooked. They were laughing about my cooking. That same night I walked out. No, where's Dad? No, we messed up. Just brunch and jokes. The knife twisted when I saw Sarah's Instagram. A group shot. Her sister, and 3 other women I didn't recognize. Caption, Las Vegas girls trip was exactly what I needed. New memories, new me. It had been 2 weeks since I left. She hadn't told anyone. And now she was smiling in front of a slot machine like our marriage never happened. I stared at that photo. Something broke in me then. Not sadness, not anger, but a colder feeling, clarity. Sarah wasn't mourning. She was rebranding. A few days later, I finally heard from Noah. One sentence, hey, do you know where the Xbox controller is? That was it. No, hey Dad, you okay? Just a tech support request from a 17-year-old. I didn't reply, but this time I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. I wasn't planning revenge, not yet. I just wanted time to think, to watch. I didn't trust my emotions. So I waited. It wasn't until the 3rd week that the real betrayal hit. A call from my sister, Brenda. Brenda speaks like she's holding court, dramatic, opinionated, but sharp. We'd never been super close, but we talked a few times a year. This time her voice was confused. David, are you okay? I sat up. Yeah, what? I just got off the phone with Sarah. She told me you two were separating, that you walked out. No explanation. I didn't answer. Brenda's voice dropped. She said you've been distant for years. Cold. She made it sound like you abandoned her. I blinked. Did she mention she forgot our 25th anniversary? That she didn't say a single word. She said you've been checked out for a long time. That she's been trying to hold things together, and you left without warning like a coward. There it was, the rewrite. Not only was I invisible, now I was the villain. My jaw clenched. Brenda sighed. Look, I don't know what's going on, but if I'm honest, I've noticed the way they talk to you. Last Thanksgiving, Chloe barely looked up. Noah acted like you were noise. Sarah barely acknowledged you unless it was to ask for something. You've always been the guy who kept the engine running, quiet, reliable. But it's like they started treating you like the engine, not the driver. That sentence stayed with me. After we hung up, I walked for hours, ending up outside a coffee shop. I sat there for 2 hours, just thinking. That night, I opened an old email account. I spent hours digging old conversations, family photos, even the original receipt for Sarah's engagement ring. The details flooded back, working weekends to afford it, canceling a fishing trip with my dad to surprise her. Alone in that spare room in Denver, I realized something painful. I'd given my everything to that family. Time, energy, love, labor, sacrifices they never noticed. In return, I'd become an appliance, a background character, a footnote. Until I left. And even then, they didn't chase me. They recast me. That was the night something shifted for good. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I started planning. If they thought I was background noise, fine. I would become a ghost. And when I came back, it wouldn't be for them. It would be for me. The true breaking point came a week later. I'd gone radio silent. Not a word to Sarah or the kids. I hadn't logged into the family account in days. But when I did, there it was. A $3,000 charge from a jewelry store. Then another $480. Boutique clothing, $270. Spa treatment, $900. All in her name, all within 3 days. She was shopping on our account with my money like I was dead. Or worse, like I never existed. I refreshed the page, thinking it was fraud, but the store was local. Same one I'd bought her necklace from years ago. I called the credit card company. She was in store, the rep said. Use chip and PIN. Do you need to file a dispute? I nearly laughed. No, this wasn't a mistake. This was intentional. This was the moment I realized she'd moved on. Emotionally, mentally, financially, she was already stepping into her next chapter, spending our anniversary savings to do it. And not once did she stop to ask what I wanted. I wasn't a partner. I was a wallet. The kicker? The next day, she posted a photo. Caption: self-care is not selfish. A close-up of a necklace. One I didn't buy. One I'd never seen. I zoomed in, heart hammering. Gold, elegant, delicate. The kind you don't buy yourself. I clicked through the comments. One from a man I didn't recognize. Looks perfect on you. Another from her sister. Someone's glowing. I closed the app. Sat very still. I'd been replaced, or at least auditioned over, while I was still technically her husband. That was it. The moment I stopped feeling sad and started feeling focused. They wanted to treat me like I didn't exist? Fine. Then they wouldn't see me coming. I think the scariest part of starting over is realizing how much of your identity was tied to other people's expectations. I was David, the dad, the husband, the one who fixed the garbage disposal and paid for summer camps. The guy who stood behind the camera, never in front. The man who was thanked with passing nods and background jokes. That was who I was. Until I wasn't. And now I was just David. No title, no role, just me. And I didn't even know who that was anymore. The days after the necklace post blurred. I barely slept, barely ate. I'd walk the streets of Denver, trying to feel anything again. I stared into storefronts like a ghost. I didn't tell Tony about the jewelry or the comments. He was already doing enough. But even he noticed. You ever think about going back? He asked one night, handing me pizza. I didn't answer. You don't have to say anything, man. Just, don't go back because you're lonely. Go back because it's home. If it still is. That stuck with me. Was it still home? Or had I just been squatting in someone else's life? The next morning, I hit rock bottom. I checked my inbox, an email from my old job. Layoffs. Department. Restructured. Position eliminated. I stared at the screen, mouth dry. I'd been in facilities management for 12 years. HVAC, custodial, safety systems. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. I'd taken the role to be close to home, to coach Noah's little league, to have dinner on the table. Now it was gone. No severance, just a polite paragraph. I felt hollow, like a balloon somebody let the air out of. That was the lowest I'd ever felt. No wife, no job, no kids checking in. Just 51 years of invisible labor and nothing to show for it. I wanted to disappear. Instead, I made coffee. Then I opened my laptop. It sounds ridiculous now, but I Googled how to start over at 50. Most results were cheesy. But one link caught my eye, an article about skilled tradespeople transitioning into consultancy. Decades of hands-on experience could translate into project management, inspection, training. And that's when something clicked. I'd spent 2 decades solving problems for other people. I knew buildings inside and out. I'd supervised crews, managed budgets. There was value in that. They just never saw it because I never sold it. That was the first spark. I spent the next week building a resume, not a job hunter's, something different. I framed myself as a consultant. David last name, facility systems advisor, site safety specialist, preventative maintenance consultant. It felt fake at first, like I was pretending to be more important. But then I listed everything I'd actually done, programs implemented, incidents prevented, cost-saving measures negotiated. I realized I wasn't pretending. I'd just never owned my worth before. I built a basic portfolio page, listed services, wrote a short bio. Nothing fancy, just enough to look real. Tony introduced me to his friend Justin, who ran a property management company. They needed help updating their vendor compliance checklist. I met him for coffee, explained what I could do. He hired me for a 2-week gig. It paid $1,500. It felt like I'd won the lottery. I worked like a man possessed. I rewrote the entire checklist, audited their systems, found 2 vendors who'd lapsed on insurance. Justin was impressed. He gave me a testimonial for my site. Words started to spread. Slowly, I picked up another client, then 2 more. A gym franchise, a small charter school. Was I rich? No. But I was building something, me. For the first time in years, I wasn't defined by what other people needed from me. I was creating value on my own terms. I moved out of Tony's after 6 weeks. Rented a furnished studio in a quiet neighborhood. Creaky floors, a view of a brick wall, but it was mine. I cooked meals for one, watched old westerns, learned how to stretch $20 across 3 dinners. Slowly, I started remembering what it felt like to live. I rejoined a local gym, not for 6-pack abs, but to feel strong again. I hadn't cared about my body in years. Too tired, too busy, too married to the idea that my job was just to survive. Now, every push-up felt like a protest. Every mile on the treadmill, a small rebellion against the man I'd become. I also started journaling. Nothing fancy, just half a page each night. What I learned, what I missed, what I felt. The first few entries were dry lists. But one night, I wrote something that stopped me cold. I spent 25 years trying to be indispensable to people who only needed me to be convenient. That line became my new compass. I stopped checking Sarah's Instagram. I stopped waiting for another text. But they came anyway. First Chloe, then Noah. Short messages at first, then longer ones. Hey, Dad. Just wondering where you are. Mom said you might not come back. I'm sorry I didn't say anything on the anniversary. I was caught up in school and I didn't realize it meant that much. Mom's been weird lately. She cries sometimes at night. I think she misses you. I didn't respond. Not yet. Something in me wasn't ready. I didn't want to be pulled back into a life that hadn't earned my return. Instead, I doubled down. I registered my business as an LLC. Hired a freelance designer for my website. Booked a booth at a regional conference. Printed 500 business cards with my name on them, founder, advisor, consultant, not husband, not father, not fallback. Just me. One afternoon, I got a message through my site's contact form. No name, just, I miss the way you used to make the house feel safe. Sarah. I recognized the writing. I sat with that sentence. Safe? Was that all I'd ever been? A human security blanket. A warm body to change the air filter and carry heavy boxes? She didn't say she missed me, just the way I made the house feel. I didn't reply, because I wasn't a feeling anymore. I was a person and I was just getting started. One night, Sipping coffee in my studio, I pulled out a notepad and wrote 2 columns. Left behind. Wedding ring, job title, shared bank account, silence, convenience. Built, new business, body, voice, value, self-respect. The right side was shorter, but it was mine, and it was growing. I didn't need revenge. Not yet. But I wasn't done. Because the reckoning hadn't arrived. Not the real one. Not the kind where you walk back into the life you left and show them. Show them what they lost, what they never saw, and what they can't get back. It's strange how clarity doesn't arrive like thunder. It drips in like a leak you didn't know existed until the floor is soaked. By the time I realized I wasn't just rebuilding, I was preparing. I was already halfway through the setup. It wasn't about revenge at first. Not really. It was about control. After years of walking on eggshells, playing the provider, trying to be useful instead of human, I wanted to feel like the driver again. And if that journey led to some poetic justice, so be it. By the end of month 3, I had 6 regular clients. I was booked solid. I wasn't making 6 figures, but I had my dignity, and that tasted better than any steak I ever grilled for people who didn't see me. Still, I hadn't told Sarah or the kids where I was. They didn't know I'd started a company, didn't know I was making money. They thought I was in limbo, lost. That was exactly how I wanted it. For now. Then came the opportunity one didn't expect. I was reviewing contracts for a new client, a commercial construction firm that specialized in educational facilities. As I scanned their projects, one address stopped me cold: Maple Creek School District. My old district, where I'd worked for 12 years. They were under renovation, 3 schools, multi-phase upgrades. The firm needed someone local as a compliance advisor, an expert who knew the district. I called Tony's friend Justin. "Hey," I said, casual, "you still tight with Kevin over at Bertram Construction?" "Sure, why?" "I want in." He chuckled. "That's bold, David. You got a lead." "Better. I've got insight." 20 minutes later, I was on the phone with Kevin. He offered me a temp contract, 6 months, part-time liaison. He didn't know I'd been fired. Didn't ask. Didn't care. He just wanted results. And I was going to give him more than that. I was going to give him a show. Within a week, I was back in my old district. Not in uniform, not with a tool belt. I walked through the halls with a clipboard and a blazer. Contractors nodded. Teachers looked confused. The principal gave me a cautious smile. Only one person asked what I was doing back. I smiled politely and said, "Consulting." The power in that word nearly made me dizzy. At night, I walked past my old house. Sarah had changed the porch lights. The blinds were always drawn now. Once, I saw Chloe's car. Once, Noah's bike was gone for days. Were they still living there full-time, part-time? I didn't know. I didn't ask. I didn't need to, because my plan didn't require them to participate. It just required them to watch. Step 1 was reclaiming my financial footing. Before I left, we had joint accounts, credit cards, a mortgage. But the deeper I dug, the more I realized Sarah had been shifting things. After I left, she'd moved some savings into a separate account. It was only a few hundred, but the pattern was clear. She was carving a financial life that didn't include me, but was still built on me. So I hired a lawyer. Not a billboard attorney, a real one, recommended by a client. Her name was Elena, 40, sharp, brutal in the best way. "I'm not looking to destroy her," I said, "but I want control of my assets, my business, my name, and I want it quietly." Elena nodded. "You're not asking for divorce yet?" "Not yet." "Then let's make you untouchable first." Within a week, she'd filed paperwork for my business LLC, registered me in a new state, helped me separate my personal and business finances, and provided a detailed audit of the marital financial trail. Turns out Sarah had been slowly spending through our joint funds, spa days, shopping, travel, that necklace, almost exactly equal to the amount she'd transferred out of our emergency account weeks prior. "She's not hiding it well," Elena said, "which is good for you." I opened a new account, moved all my business earnings into it, changed my tax status. Legally, I was drifting further from her with every passing day. She didn't even know it. Step 2 was narrative control. Sarah's biggest advantage had been my silence. She told her version of the story to friends, family, maybe even the kids. So, I started rewriting the script. One afternoon, I sent a single text to Noah. Would love to catch up sometime. Coffee? Maybe. It was short, gentle. He replied in 10 minutes. Yeah, sure. I've been meaning to talk. We met at a local diner. He was taller, voice deeper. He looked nervous. Hey, he said. Hey, kiddo. A long pause. You okay? He asked, like, really okay? I took a deep breath. I am now. He nodded, looked down at his hands. Mom's been saying you abandoned us. I raised an eyebrow. And what do you think? He squirmed. I don't know. I mean, you were always there and then you weren't. That's fair, I said quietly. But let me ask you something. When's the last time you told me you saw me? Not just that I was there, but that I mattered. He blinked. I don't know. I don't blame you. You're a kid. But I need you to know I didn't leave because I stopped caring. I left because I stopped existing. That hit him. He didn't speak for a while. Before he left, he said, I think I get it now. And that was all I needed. I didn't need to turn the kids against her. I just needed them to think. Chloe was next. Colder, more guarded. We met in a park near her campus. You're not mad, she asked. About what? About the anniversary? About everything. I smiled. I was. But not anymore. She tilted her head. That's almost worse. I shrugged. Anger means I care. I'm just focused now. She asked what I was doing. I told her. Her eyes widened. You started your own company? I did. Wait. Like a real one? No, I said deadpan, a fake one. I print my own Monopoly money and sell it to squirrels. She rolled her eyes. Okay. That's kind of badass. We talked for an hour. Before she left, she asked if I'd come home for dinner soon. I will, I said, but not empty-handed. That was the next step. The house. It was still technically half mine. Mortgage split, ownership equal. But I didn't want the house. I wanted the stage. Because nothing drives a point home like walking back through the front door. Not as a stray husband, but as a man with leverage. So, I waited until one night Sarah called me. Not a text, a call. I let it go to voicemail. David, we need to talk about everything. The kids miss you. I miss you. I think we both made mistakes. Can we just sit down, please? I didn't call back. Not yet. Because she wasn't ready for what I was bringing. The final piece fell into place. 2 weeks later, Elena handed me a packet. The full financial audit. Her spending, asset movement, every transaction tied to our shared funds since I left. All sourced, labeled, timestamped. She flipped the final page and smiled. This, she said, is your trump card. Use it wisely. I stared at it. The numbers didn't lie. She had turned our savings into a runway for reinvention. And now it was my turn. Not to scream, not to beg, not even to punish, but to arrive. Calm, prepared, and holding every card. The setup was complete. Revenge doesn't always look like fire and brimstone. Sometimes it's quiet, precise, cold, like a winter wind slipping under a door. That's how I wanted mine to be. Because after everything, the silence, the erasure, the years of being dad, the steak guy, and honey, can you fix this? I didn't want to destroy anything. I wanted them to understand. To look at me and see me for the first time in years and realize they could never unsee me again. It started on a Sunday. Sarah texted again. Dinner this weekend. Just us, please. She'd sent messages like that a few times now, little breadcrumbs of reconciliation, but always vague, always on her terms. This time, I replied Friday, 7 p.m. I'll bring dessert. The plan was already in motion. Elena finalized everything on Thursday morning. My business was now fully divorced from any shared assets. The house's equity split had been assessed. Every dime Sarah had spent from our joint accounts had been itemized. I wasn't trying to sue her, but I wanted her to see it, to sit across from me and look at the ledger of her own choices. That afternoon, I dropped by the house unannounced. She opened the door wearing a loose sweater, hair up, no makeup, looking the way she used to on weekends when we'd drink coffee on the porch and talk about nothing. Hey, she said, surprised. Hey, I replied. Wanted to check something about the roof before winter hits. She blinked. Oh, sure. I walked past her into my own home like a ghost returning to haunt the halls he paid for. Everything was cleaner than I expected. She'd redecorated slightly. I climbed onto the roof, checked the gutters, noted a minor crack. But mostly, I just needed to see it again, to feel it, to say goodbye in my own way before I burned the bridge. Friday came. I arrived at 6:58 p.m. box of pastries in hand, button-up shirt, clean shave, smelling like cedarwood and quiet confidence. She opened the door slowly, eyes scanning me top to bottom. You look. She hesitated. Good. Thanks, I said. Smells like rosemary chicken. Your favorite. Funny how that works. We sat down at the same table where I'd grilled steaks for my silent anniversary. The same table where I'd left my ring. Noah was home. He came downstairs, gave me a weird half-hug, mumbled, "Hey, Dad." Chloe arrived 10 minutes later, looking nervous. Sarah served dinner like it was a peace offering. Wine was poured. Plates passed. They tried small talk. Noah talked about senior year. Chloe mentioned job interviews. Sarah said, "It's nice having everyone together again." I nodded, then pulled a folder from my bag, slid it across the table. This, I said, is a record of every financial transaction since I left. They all stared. Sarah reached for it slowly. I'm not here to fight, I said. I'm here to close the book. She opened the folder, read the first page. Her eyes froze. Then she flipped to the next and the next. Chloe leaned over. Noah craned his neck. What is this? Sarah finally asked. It's a full audit. Every dollar spent, every account touched since the day I walked out. I didn't know you were keeping track. That's the problem, I said, my voice even. You never knew. Never thought you had to know. You assumed I was gone and the resources were still yours. I thought we were still married. We were, I said, legally. But spiritually, emotionally, you left long before I did. You just didn't pack a bag. Noah cleared his throat. What's happening? I looked him in the eye. Your mother has been living like I was a memory. Using joint funds, buying gifts, booking trips, all while telling people I abandoned her. Sarah turned red. I never said you abandoned me. Brenda called me in shock, I said. Because you spun a version of the story where I walked out without warning. You never mentioned forgetting our 25th anniversary. You never told her, or anyone, what really happened. I didn't want to embarrass the family. No, I said, you didn't want to own your part. Silence. Chloe looked between us. Is this why you've been gone so long? I turned to her. This and 1,000 little things. Things you didn't notice. That none of you noticed. Sarah tried to change tactics. Her voice softened. David, I know I've made mistakes. I got caught up in my own world. I let the silence grow. I was lonely, too, you know. I nodded. I believe you. Her face brightened slightly. Then I added, but that doesn't mean I'm coming back. Another silence. Deeper this time. Final. I placed a second document on the table. A formal letter drafted by Elena. I'm filing for separation. No lawyers unless needed. I'm not taking the house. I don't want alimony. All I want is a clean split of what's fair and to be done. Sarah's mouth fell open. You're leaving me? I already did. You just didn't notice. Chloe reached across the table. Dad. I took her hand gently. This isn't about punishing your mom. It's about liberating myself. I gave you all the best years of my life. And I don't regret that. But I refuse to spend the rest of them being invisible. Noah looked stunned. So what now? Now. I smiled. Now I live freely on my terms. Sarah stood. Tears brimmed in her eyes. I thought we could fix this. You never tried, I said softly. You just expected me to come back like a lost sock. I didn't know you were serious. I was serious the moment I walked out and you didn't chase me. She sat down, defeated. I finished my wine, stood, picked up the folder. I'll have Elena contact your lawyer. If you don't have one, she'll work with you directly. I paused at the doorway. Looked at them. All three. Noah staring at his plate. Chloe biting her lip. Sarah silently weeping. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel triumphant. But it felt right. And that was enough. That night, I walked through the old neighborhood one last time. The leaves were falling, the wind sharp, the air smelled like November. The beginning of the end. I passed the park where I used to push Noah on the swings. The cafe where Sarah and I had our first coffee date. All memories now. My phone buzzed. A new message from Sarah. I read the folder again. You were always more generous than I deserved. I didn't reply. Some things don't need closure. Some people just need silence to hear their own echoes. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. No fights, no drama. She didn't contest a thing. The kids visited separately. We met in diners and bookstores and city parks. Slowly, they started seeing me not as the man who left, but the man who chose to live. Noah called me one night and said, "I'm proud of you." Chloe sent me a picture of her first paycheck with the caption, "Started adulting." Don't worry, I'm not blowing it all on scented candles. We laughed. And we healed, bit by bit. I moved into a loft with tall windows and exposed brick. Got a cat named Diesel, bought a record player, started collecting old vinyls. I'd sit by the window, sipping coffee, listening to Otis Redding or Sinatra. My company grew. I hired 2 contractors, gave lectures at a trade conference. People listen to me now, not because they needed something fixed, but because they saw value in what I knew, what I was. Sometimes I still pass the train station where I left that night. The same one I boarded with nothing but a wallet and a broken heart. And every time I do, I remember the silence, the scrolling phone, the steak dinner, the untouched wine, the ring on the pillow. And I smile. Because the man who boarded that train, he vanished that night. But the man who returned, he was born in that silence, rebuilt from it. And he will never be invisible again. I look back at that man on the train and the man I've become, and it makes me wonder, have you ever felt that invisible?